Alright lads, here we go with our first ever reaction video on the channel. Hopefully you guys are all having a fantastic day. Today we are going to be reacting to 8 NBA stars that are about to be traded by the 2021 trade deadline. This is my first reaction video on the channel, so I have made a thing in my Discord server, so if you haven't, join the Discord server. Join that, leave any videos that you find interesting, leave the link in a text channel that I have created called Discord Reaction Link. I think it's just reaction links or something. I think it's called reaction video links, so leave the link there with the basic gist of what the video is about, and there's always a chance that your video could be getting reacted to. Of course, before anything goes down, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. We do post MyLeague videos a lot on the channel, so if you haven't come over to the channel for the MyLeague stuff. Be sure to go over there, check out a few videos, see what it's about, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And also like the video, it helps us out a bunch. Cheers, boys. Just real quick, this is the first reaction. I don't know anything that's going on, but we'll see what goes on. I'll chuck on the headset, see what goes on. Let's see what happens. I don't know if I'm going to pause the video. It is a 16-minute video, so I will try not to pause it as much. Also, big shout out to the Flight Mic. I will do watch him quite a lot, especially with these type of videos. Big shout out to him. If you haven't, go check him out. His channel's pretty dang awesome. He makes a lot of these videos, so check out the Flight Mic, mate.
If there's one thing that I'm always excited about, it's the prospect of player movement in the NBA.
Mate, so am I. It makes most of my content.
The biggest blockbuster trade that we potentially could have gotten the entire year about a month ago when James Harden was officially traded from the Houston Rockets to the Brooklyn Nets. But
yeah,
there is a prospect of potential player movement this year as well.
It made the NBA very
exciting. As
exciting.
To discover more and more information about themselves and how good that they truly are, we should get an idea of some players that are potentially going to be traded before the trade deadline.
Also, let me know down in the comments 8 players that you guys think could potentially get traded before the trade deadline. I have John Collins, Demar Derozan, Zach Levine, Lonzo Ball, JJ Redick, Bradley Beal, and Victor Oladipo. Those are my 8. They're not stars, but let me know of 8 NBA players that you think will get traded before the trade deadline, boys. Also, I need a sick intro for my videos, lads, so if you know anyone that can make intros, let me know. I need a sick intro like this. Well, not like this, but a sick one. Come on, boys. Like, something like this. That would be sick, boys.
Let's start this list with an individual that was actually traded during the 2020 trade deadline, and that is Andre Drummond. Originally,
I forgot about Andre Drummond, man. I do think he's going to get traded, by the way.
He was going to opt out of his contract and sign with a brand new team in free agency. And, well, they were wrong. They traded him to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and believe it or not, against what I even thought myself, he decided to opt in for another season with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
No, he opted in because he's got like a $28 million contract, and I don't think anyone was going to pay him that much.
When you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers roster, they have
I just don't think Andre Drummond thought he could get that much money in free agency. That's why he signed in.
They recently just traded for Jarrett Allen, and by the way, huge props to them for that trade because they didn't have to give up.
By the way, if you haven't, I've made a Brooklyn Nets Andre Drummond rebuild recently, so I don't know if I've put it up as a card, but go check that out.
Much to get a stud like Jarrett Allen on the team. Andre Drummond has been more or less the same player for the past 3 years of his career, averaging very similar numbers over the past 3 years.
Very good defensive and rebounding stats.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, he's not going to have this ability to stretch the floor, but he is a consistent double-double threat and a pretty good double-double threat as well.
Like 15 and 13,
17.9 points per game and 14 total.
Oh, he's averaging 17 points a game?
Typically the numbers end up.
All right, yeah, so 15, 12 games normally.
15, which are fantastic numbers. The caveat is he's not a good free throw shooter. He's not a three-point shooter at all, but he is a good defensive player in the interior and a good defensive presence. The problem is whoever ends up trading for Andre Drummond is probably going to have difficulty re-signing him in the offseason because Andre Drummond hasn't been able to come to grips with his actual value as a player in the modern NBA. Yeah, if
you're not
this
wrong.
was 2005, I would happily shell out a max contract for Andre Drummond, but at this stage of his career, traditional centers are at the absolute bottom of the NBA totem pole because shooting is at a premium currently, and unless if he could entice a team to offer him Clint Capella money, then I don't really see him getting the contract that he desires. Nevertheless, a team could potentially...
I do say, if the team was able to get Andre Drummond on Clint Capella type of contract, it would be a very, very good contract, not going to lie, because Andre Drummond does almost the same what Clint Capella does, maybe a little bit better scoring. They're both quite athletic centers, quite athletic defensive centers. Can't really space the floor too much. Yeah, I'd see Andre Drummond making about $15-16 million a season.
Trade for Andre Drummond to potentially make a run in the playoffs, and could even use him as a one-year rental. I'm looking at you, Boston Celtics. You guys could desperately use a traditional center. Up next, we have Russell Westbrook. And a potential trade for Russell Westbrook completely hinges on the shoulders of how much longer the Washington Wizards want to drag on the Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal experiment. It's been
really
22 games, and these two are just not a good pair for one another. I'm sure there are other issues, but Bradley Beal historically hasn't been a good defensive player, and Russell Westbrook is currently playing the worst basketball of his career. And this is nothing against Russell
to be honest,
Westbrook
he was
or
injured.
Bradley Beal. I'm rooting for both of them to succeed, but speaking as a general manager that has young players like Deni Avdija and Rui Hachimura on the roster, and considering the fact that you're paying Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook a huge amount of money just so you could be the worst team in the East, I believe it's in their best interest to trade Russell Westbrook to a team that is better suited for his skill set. And well, if we're going to be including Russell Westbrook in trade rumors, then we might as well include his teammate Bradley Beal. And
by the way, I've also been posting Bradley Beal trade rumor rebuilds, so once again, if I'm not lazy, there should be a card popping up, lads. If I'm not lazy, that is.
Bradley Beal is essentially the same story as Russell Westbrook, only he's on a better contract and is a significantly more productive offensive player. Look, I find it extremely endearing that Bradley Beal has this much loyalty to the Washington Wizards franchise. There hasn't been a single point where
he did sign an extension at midway through last year saying that he wanted to, so
ideally
something must be doing
Washington.
alright for him.
But the fact of the matter is the odds of that happening are slim to none. Russell Westbrook and him haven't been working out so far, and the rest of his team is still trying to develop. They are the worst defensive team in the entire NBA, and at this point, I feel
defensively,
like
the
if
Wizards
you're the
shot,
Washington Wizards, and I've said this in multiple videos, you may as well do whatever it takes to get a good return on a star player like Bradley Beal, as opposed to just holding on to him for dear life. Yeah, I understand you're a smaller market, and it's very hard to find good, loyal players that will commit to your franchise long term, and that does make Bradley Beal a unicorn. There's not many players like Bradley Beal nowadays that will be nearly as loyal to a franchise as he is. But if you could trade Bradley Beal to a team that could return a couple of first-round draft picks that fit within the timeline of Deni Avdija and Rui Hachimura and any other young players that you have on your roster,
Ben Simmons question mark,
and then continue moving forward with an emphasis on the development of those players.
I'd rather have Ben Simmons in
Houston. Going to get a
favorite player or favorite
NBA
team.
draft
How about
pick this year, and a pretty damn good NBA draft, might I add. Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, and Cade Cunningham seem to be the real deal in my opinion. Then I believe that'll get you back to contention way quicker than just holding on to Bradley Beal for dear life.
The thing is, who's going to trade for Russell Westbrook?
Better than this as well, Washington.
No one's going to trade for Westbrook, because at the moment I'd say John Wall has more trade value than Westbrook.
He is an absolute class act for not demanding a trade thus far. Now, I really didn't know whether I should include this next player on this list, because I'm fairly confident that this individual is more likely to get bought out than traded, but what the heck. Blake Griffin. If you take a look at Blake Griffin, he has been...
Personally, Blake Griffin, I don't know what to do with Blake Griffin. He's very injury prone. I think on that contract, it's a lot of money, and he's only declining. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't really pay too much attention to the Pistons, so I don't know what's going on there either, but it's actually a real shame to see Blake Griffin fall off like this.
Don't let the fancy good highlights on the screen fool you, because this is a player that's currently averaging 12 points per game, 5.4 total rebounds per game, 3.6 assists per game, shooting 36% from the field and 31% from three, with a PER of 9.8. Bear in mind, this is a player that is getting paid maximum money. Now, I wanted to make a dedicated video on Blake Griffin because I find his situation to be the most interesting. And my personal opinion on what's going on with him is, honestly, he just has no motivation anymore. And I can't really blame him. After going from a team that is so close to playing in the NBA Finals, to 4 years later, you find yourself on the Detroit Pistons, who have been pretty much nowhere close to contention over the last 3 years and are just progressively getting worse and worse. This past year being the absolute worst because they didn't even attempt to keep Luke Kennard. They sold him. A year ago, they traded Andre Drummond. They just traded Derrick Rose. Yeah, he has Jeremy Grant, who's a stud on his team.
Yeah, Jeremy Grant's doing bits.
At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Blake Griffin is playing so bad just so he could get bought out by the Detroit Pistons. I don't think there's a single team in the NBA that'd be willing to take on his contract because, well, who wants to pay a max contract player that's averaging 12 points per game off of 36% shooting a maximum contract?
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. No one wants to pay Blake Griffin a max contract, max money. So I don't see the Pistons being able to trade him. I think he's more than likely going to get bought out. He's just in a weird situation right now, boys. He's in a really weird situation.
I don't think the Detroit Pistons want to give up a first-round pick in order to move Blake Griffin and take on his contract. But I guess you could consider Blake Griffin to be an honorable mention on this list. Up next, we have Victor Oladipo. And in Victor Oladipo's case, we understand that he just got traded. So you wouldn't think he'd be on the move again, right? Well, if you couple the fact that reports surfaced really quickly about the Rockets only acquiring Oladipo as a trade chip, plus the fact that Oladipo has been flirting with the Miami Heat over the past, I don't know, 2 years. The fact that there's virtually no chance that he's going to be re-signing with the Houston Rockets past this year, then it makes a lot of sense to assume that the Houston Rockets would do whatever it takes to trade Victor Oladipo by the trade deadline.
Yeah, the thing is, right, when we got him in that James Harden deal from Indiana, I was like, well, he's probably going to get traded again before the trade deadline because he wants a lot of money, and I don't think Houston want to pay Victor Oladipo, who, at the moment, he's not playing like Victor Oladipo, like he should be getting paid like a max amount of money. Unless he turns on a switch somehow and then stays doing this, then I see Houston being like, all right, maybe we can offer him a deal. But personally, I think Victor Oladipo is on the move by the trade deadline. I don't think Houston want to give him the money that he wants, so he's probably going to get traded. Houston get something back for Oladipo instead of letting him just walk for free.
As a matter of fact, I think he's the most likely player to get traded by the trade deadline on this list. The problem is, this is a player that has been consistently flirting with the Miami Heat. So why would the Miami Heat give up multiple assets to trade for Oladipo when you could just sign him this offseason in free agency? Maybe the fact that the Miami Heat are so desperate to get some help because they haven't been performing so far would do something with it, but I don't know. Really they have been
the Miami Heat have turned on a switch, mate. They've been playing really well. Once Jimmy Butler came back, Jimmy Butler is the core of that Miami Heat team. Let's just say that.
Take a flyer on Oladipo, very similarly to the way the Indiana Pacers took a flyer on Evan Turner about a decade ago. A team that is trying to make a push in the NBA playoffs that could use some extra help.
Clippers, if they don't get a point guard.
Oladipo's tenure.
By the way, I see Kyle Lowry going to the Clippers if possible.
Even close to how Evan Turner's tenure with the Indiana Pacers went a decade ago. Then you have Zach Levine, a player.
I don't see Zach Levine leaving the Chicago Bulls this season. I mean, I put him in my list, but I don't see Zach Levine leaving the Chicago Bulls. I don't, because the Bulls are doing okay. They're what, just outside playoffs or just in it? They're in that playoff zone, so if they can make playoffs, I don't think the Bulls are trading Levine.
Player that is...
But he is on my list for players that could potentially get traded before the trade deadline.
He's been absolutely remarkable for the Chicago Bulls. The problem is, he is the captain of a fairly mediocre team on the Eastern Conference. Don't get me wrong, he's a remarkable player. That 9 3-pointer game over the New Orleans Pelicans
that was crazy.
Remarkable. scoring 46 points, grabbing 7 rebounds, and going plus 20 in the plus-minus category.
Zach Levine's just exciting to watch.
But the Chicago Bulls are essentially
I think the Bulls have been
in
disrespected
NBA
with the lack
They're
of
not terrible enough
nationally
to
televised
tank
games
for
that
a
they
top
get.
lottery pick, but they're not good enough to
Just gonna say
make
that.
it into the upper seeds of the Eastern Conference in the
They might make the
playoffs.
7th or 8th.
You see, the issue with Zach Levine is his contract is set to expire at the end of next year. He just seems like a player that is destined to be overpaid in free agency. Some team is going to offer Zach Levine the max, and in my opinion, he is not a max contract player on a...
I agree. I don't think he's a max level player. Don't get me wrong. He's a fantastic player. I don't think he's a number 1 option on a championship caliber team, which is the only players, in my opinion, that should be getting the max contracts. Number 1 options on championship caliber teams. Those are the players that should be getting those super maxes and max contracts. So I think Zach Levine would potentially get... I could see him getting $25 to $28 million. I see that. Considering the max is at, what, 35? I could see Zach Levine getting 25, 28 million.
A championship team. Not because he's not good enough offensively, mainly because he's not good enough defensively.
Yeah, also defensively, Zach Levine isn't exactly a fantastic defender.
He's a shooting guard that is a remarkable offensive weapon that is terrible defensively, kind of like James Harden and Bradley Beal, who have not...
I'd say Harden and Beal are a bit better defensively. Just a little bit.
Not really smelled any type of team success. And Zach Levine isn't even close to being the type of offensive player that James Harden is. Nor is he even close to being the type of player that Bradley Beal is offensively as well. As a matter of fact, Zach Levine is worse than both of these aforementioned players in defense and isn't nearly as good as them offensively, which is enough reason for the Chicago Bulls to trade him while his value is absolutely at its peak, take a short-term dip in terms of team success, but receive a remarkable haul for him that could contribute to their ability to build a better team in the future. And finally, we have Demar Derozan. Demar Derozan's career with the San Antonio Spurs has been
because he's
very
on an expiring
subpar, to
deal.
say the least.
He's got a bit of value. He's
Originally,
been
he was
played really well this
consolation
season. I see him
prize
getting traded.
for trading Kawhi Leonard to the Toronto Raptors originally, and unfortunately, Greg Popovich hasn't been able to get the same type of success out of LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan as he was able to get out of Kawhi Leonard, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker.
Well, think about it. You did just name 4 or Hall of Famers. You named Kawhi Leonard, who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Tim Duncan, already a first ballot Hall of Famer. Tony Parker, first ballot Hall of Famer. Manu Ginobili, a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, you named 3 Hall of Famers, mate. There's no way that you're going to get that from DeMar DeRozan, who maybe will make the Hall of Fame, and LaMarcus Aldridge, who maybe will make a Hall of Fame. Like, of course you're not going to get the same success.
Who would have ever imagined this would be the case? This is a scenario where DeMar DeRozan has been playing in the NBA for 12 years, and it's in his best interest to finally go to a team that could potentially help him win a championship on.
Yeah, I'd love to see DeMar DeRozan in the NBA Finals,
he'll
man.
try to find his way to an LA-based team because, well, he's originally from Los Angeles. But for now...
Imagine DeRozan on the bloody Clippers, man. Imagine.
Spurs just want to get whatever return they can get out of LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan because chances are these are 2 players that will not be on their team next year. And finally, is any trade list complete without Lonzo Ball? Let me get something straight. I love Lonzo Ball as a player.
Same.
I think he's a remarkable piece to have, and I think he could even be a starting caliber point guard on a championship team. And of course, he has been marginally improving each and every year throughout his entire career. But that's about it. There's been a marginal improvement each and every year, not like a Giannis Antetokounmpo sized improvement each and every year. At the time
but still.
of this video, he's averaging 14 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 4.7 assists with a 14.6 PER and shooting 37% from 3. That's just enough to justify your existence in the NBA, and he is a fairly solid defensive player. But he's not a game-changing point guard. He's not anywhere near the talent level that a number 2 overall pick should be. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for the fact that he changed his jump shot and the fact that he possesses a tremendous basketball IQ, he'd be very similar to Michael Kidd-Gilchrist in a point guard's body. And the reason why I'm saying that it's extremely likely he gets traded is he's set to hit restricted free agency. And no matter what, a team is going to offer this man a ton of money just based off the fact that he is Lonzo Ball. And I can't imagine the New Orleans Pelicans matching
pretty much
that.
because of that last name.
As a result, you might as well trade him and at least get something in return. But that's my opinion. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this list. Aside from that,
well, hopefully you guys all enjoyed this reaction. I don't know if it was interesting to you guys or not. I found that video quite interesting. These are the type of videos that I watch like when I've finished for the day and I'm like going to sleep, man. These are the type of videos that I watch just to keep up to date with what's going on. But yeah, that's basically gonna do it. Like I said before, go down there, down in the comments and let me know of 8 players, not stars, just 8 players that you guys see could potentially get traded before the 2021 trade deadline. Potentially doesn't have to be a guarantee, just potential wise. 8 players that you guys think could get traded before the trade deadline. But yeah, that's really gonna do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new, like the video, all that. Follow me on Twitter, join Discord, all that stuff. Follow me on TikTok as well. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers, boys. Peace.